$2,700. That's the number most people never notice. Not because it's hidden, but because it arrives quietly, in pieces, spread across weeks and months. It's the amount Herbert loses in a single year simply because he didn't have money available at the right moment. And that number is conservative. Picture this. Herbert is driving to work. Same route. Same traffic lights. Same mental checklist running in the background. He's already thinking about emails, deadlines, the meeting he doesn't want to be late for. Then a small orange light flicks on. Check engine. Not flashing. Not screaming. Just glowing. His stomach drops anyway. He knows what that usually means. A sensor. A small part. Roughly $330 if handled now. Annoying but manageable. He pulls into a parking lot and checks his bank account. There's $48 left until Friday. Rent cleared yesterday. Utilities are pending. Groceries already stretched thin. So he does what almost everyone in this position does. He postpones. He tells himself it can wait. He turns up the radio to drown out the rattle. He promises he'll deal with it next paycheck. He keeps driving. 2 months later, the car dies on the highway. Not dramatically. Just slowly. Power fading. Steering stiffening. Hazard lights blinking. A tow truck costs $220. The original issue wasn't fixed, so it spread. The transmission is now damaged. Repair bill, $2,200. Because the car is gone for days, Herbert misses 2 shifts. Lost wages, $330. That original $330 problem quietly became a $2,750 event. Same car. Same issue. Same person. Different timing. This wasn't bad luck. This is what I call the delay penalty. The delay penalty is the price you pay when problems compound because you don't have liquidity when they're small. It's not reckless spending. It's not irresponsibility. It's what happens when the system charges interest on waiting. And this is where the real enemy shows up. Not being bad with money. The enemy is liquidity starvation. Liquidity starvation means you don't have enough cash on hand to stop small issues from becoming expensive ones. And when liquidity is missing, the world gets more expensive by default. This video isn't about investing strategies. It's not about hustles or passive income. It's not about cutting tiny pleasures. It's about why not having money makes everything cost more. And why being broke isn't just a condition. It's a compounding tax on your entire life. Let's anchor this to a real financial concept. Total cost of ownership. Most people are taught to think in monthly payments. That framing is convenient. For lenders. Total cost of ownership asks a harder question. What does this decision actually cost me over time? Herbert didn't ignore the engine light because he didn't care. He ignored it because fixing it required liquidity he didn't have. That missing liquidity multiplied the cost. This pattern shows up everywhere. Let's start small. Household goods. If Herbert has $52 available, he buys in bulk. Large pack. Lower unit cost. Months of coverage. If he doesn't, he buys what he can afford today. Smaller pack. Higher unit price. More frequent purchases. Same product. Different math. This is unit price punishment. When you're short on cash, your personal inflation rate is higher than everyone else's. Not because prices changed. Because access did. Laundry detergent. Paper towels. Diapers. Cleaning supplies. The math doesn't punish what you buy. It punishes when you buy. And it doesn't stop at groceries. Now we move to the financial system itself. If Herbert has $9,000 sitting in his checking account, the bank treats him gently. No monthly fees. Grace periods. Occasional perks. If he has $28, the tone changes immediately. A forgotten subscription hits for $34. Account goes negative. Penalty, $36. Let's slow that down. He effectively borrowed $6 for less than a day. Cost, $36. That's a 600% interest rate. If an individual did this, it would be illegal. When an institution does it, it's labeled a fee. Last year, banks extracted billions in overdraft charges. Almost entirely from accounts under $1,200. This isn't accidental. This is extraction by fragility. The less stable you are, the more you're charged for existing inside the system. And this is where psychology enters the picture. Because Herbert isn't careless with money. He's cautious. He plans. He tracks expenses. But responsibility without liquidity still collapses under pressure. You're not making these decisions because you're impulsive. You're making them because you're protecting your identity as someone who manages. Even when the math is working against you. That's the identity trap. Now let's scale this up. Transportation. Herbert needs a car to earn income. If he had savings and strong credit, he'd buy a reliable used vehicle for about $22,000. Low interest, predictable maintenance, 10 years of usable life. Instead, with thin credit and no buffer, he ends up at a high-risk dealership. Sticker price, $8,800. Actual value, around $4,500. Interest rate, 23%. Total paid over time, nearly $16,000. And the car won't last through the loan. So he's paying for a replacement before finishing the first obligation. This is risk pricing. You aren't paying for the car. You're paying for being classified as risky. And the only way to stop being risky is to have money, which you can't accumulate because you're paying the risk premium. It's a closed loop. Housing follows the same pattern. When Herbert rents, every dollar disappears. No equity, no leverage, no control. To buy, he needs a down payment. But rent consumes nearly half his income. So the down payment never materializes. Monthly rent, $2,050. Comparable ownership cost, about $1,300. He pays more to own nothing. This is permanent rent, not just of housing, of stability. Now let's talk about time. Time is the hidden multiplier that almost never appears on a budget. If Herbert had a washer and dryer, laundry would take minutes of attention. Instead, it takes hours. Travel. Waiting. Folding. Travel back. 2 hours gone. 2 hours he can't rest, can't earn, can't recover. This is time friction. The less money you have, the more time daily life consumes. Food deserts. Long commutes. Multiple transfers. Every inconvenience quietly steals future earning potential. And here's the layer most people don't want to talk about. There's a phenomenon called cognitive load under scarcity. When money is tight, the brain reallocates resources toward immediate survival. Studies show functional IQ drops by roughly 12 points under financial stress. That's not stupidity. That's bandwidth collapse. This is why people under pressure take short-term options with long-term damage. High-interest loans, deferred maintenance, quick fixes. Not because they don't understand the cost. Because they don't have the mental space to think long-term. Wealth doesn't just buy better products. It buys mental quiet. And mental quiet compounds. So what's the way out? It's not earning more. That's slow and uncertain. It's not investing first. That comes later. The first move is bleeding control. Herbert stops asking, "Can I afford this monthly?" He starts asking, "Does this permanently remove a future cost?" Paying off a 21% credit card isn't boring. It's a guaranteed 21% return. Fixing the car early isn't maintenance. It's cost containment. Buying one durable item instead of 5 disposable ones isn't indulgence. It's exit planning. This leads to the most important concept in this entire video. The buffer. A buffer isn't savings. It's optionality. When Herbert builds a $1,100 emergency fund, something subtle but powerful happens. A flat tire becomes an inconvenience, not a crisis. Insurance deductibles can be raised, lowering monthly premiums. Bulk purchases become possible. Small problems stop becoming disasters. The buffer breaks the delay penalty. This is why the first $1,100 is harder and more powerful than the next $11,000. It flips the system from defense to offense. But it requires a mental shift. You stop treating spending as comfort and start treating it as problem elimination. You don't buy relief. You buy permanence. You stop asking what feels good now and start asking what never needs to be paid again. Companies rely on you not seeing this. They profit from late fees, from convenience charges, from subscriptions you don't have the energy to cancel. Once Herbert understands the mechanics, he becomes a bad customer and a competent steward of his own future. This journey isn't fair. Going from $0 to $11,000 is harder than going from $11,000 to $110,000. The wind is strongest at the start. But once you see that poverty isn't a moral failure, it's a mathematical penalty. The shame dissolves, and strategy replaces it. You stop blaming yourself and start dismantling the penalties. One repair, one buffer, one durable decision at a time. You don't escape all at once. You exit gradually. Until one day the engine light comes on, and you fix it. Immediately. And nothing else breaks. Before you go, I want to hear from you. What do you think is the biggest hidden threat to people's finances right now? The kind that doesn't show up in headlines but quietly drains stability month after month? Is it rising fixed costs, lack of buffers, debt penalties, or something else entirely? Let me know your thoughts in the comments. I read them, and they often shape what we break down next. And if this video helped you see money a little more clearly, give it a like and consider subscribing. It genuinely helps the channel grow and keeps this kind of analysis going. Until next time, this has been Herbert Invest, where we cut through the noise so you don't have to. Thanks for watching.